Welcome back to another Micmac Tabletop review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Smith & Wesson Model 39-2 9mm semi-automatic pistol. This is the classic Smith & Wesson Model 39-2. I should probably admit that I personally think the Model 39 is one of the most iconic pistols ever made. Not only is it a great 9mm handgun, it's also one of the most widely appreciated with a remarkable history. But before we get into all that, let's make sure this gun is cleared first. And by the way, if you enjoy this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. By the way, my reviews tend to be comprehensive, but I also know that not everyone is interested in all the areas I cover. So for your convenience, here's the table of contents if you want to skip ahead. Now, if you've watched many of my videos, you know that I do a bit of collecting. But without deep pockets, I rely on finding dirt cheap bargains. When I'm at a gun store, I tend to look at the used guns first, not only for bargains, but also for good collectibles. Guns that have an interesting history are the most appealing to me. Many times the best deals I've found are guns that need just a little work, mostly minor cleanup work that I can buy for far below their actual value if the seller is motivated enough. If I can get a gun at trade-in value, I think I've done pretty well. Sadly, it's been slim pickings in the used gun market in my area for the past few years. Still, from time to time, I occasionally still find a bargain. This Smith & Wesson Model 39-2 is a good example. With a current trade-in value of about $450, this gun had a price tag of $600, but in the end, with a bit of bargaining and patience, I paid less than $400, tax and all. I thought that was a pretty good deal. Yes, buying a used gun like this is a risk, but because it's a Smith & Wesson, I was pretty sure it'd be well worth it. Smith & Wesson has always made pretty good guns, especially these older 9mm automatics. And I've had good lucks with restoring Smith & Wesson firearms in the past. As for this one, the anodized aluminum frame and right grip were the worst for wear, but mechanically, the gun was in pretty good shape. New grips would only cost about $30. Note that this particular gun is stamped with Century Arms International import mark, which suggests that it may have been a law enforcement surplus firearm, probably from South America. Cleanup consisted of a little touch-up restoration of the aluminum frame with birchwood aluminum black and bluing repair of the slide with birchwood super blue. As for the walnut grips, I decided to try to refinish them myself, so here's the gun before, and here it is today. Not perfect, but not bad. In the end, although very dirty, it didn't need anything more even after a complete disassembly than a good cleaning. No significant wear internally, springs were still good, overall the fit and parts was excellent. Nice, tight, smooth action pistol. Initial range testing provided good results as well, although one of the two magazines that came with this gun could do with a fresher spring. Otherwise, very nice. So what makes the Smith & Wesson Model 39 so iconic? Before we get into that, allow me to make a point. Here's a chart of the progressive development of the Smith & Wesson 9mm pistols. Confusion over Smith & Wesson model numbering is common and warranted in my opinion, given the system lacks an intuitively consistent pattern. However, once you understand the logic, it's not too bad. This chart from Lucky Gunner helps, especially at the end here where the code is broke down to explain the Smith & Wesson details. But I'll admit things can get confusing, so be prepared for that. So the 39 refers to the original design single stack pistol, and 59 refers to the original double stack pistol. You'll see these numbers, 39 and 59, reflected in the later model variants with 3 or 4 digit names. That being said, note that the chart begins with the Model 39, which is the Model 39's claim to fame. It was the first. Now, going back to just after World War II, remember that the single-action Colt 1911 was still the weapon of choice. But the United States military was impressed with the 9mm German Walther P38 double single-action pistol and wanted something similar. By the way, the Belgian 15-round Browning HP35 high power at the time was another great pistol, but was only available in single action. These three weapons, the 1911, the Walther P38, and the Browning HP35, would all play a part in the development of the Smith & Wesson semi-automatic loader pistols. Responding to the call, Smith & Wesson began working on its Model 39, chambered in 9 by 19 millimeter Luger rounds. And by 1955, Smith & Wesson presented its Model 39, which was the first U.S. design double-action semi-automatic pistol, although the Model 39 and a modified version of the Model 39 to which a suppressor could be added, nicknamed the Hush Puppy, were eventually adopted by the Naval Special Warfare Unit during the Vietnam War. Financial restraints and the fact that the old 1911 remained highly popular with military personnel led to the military abandoning this initial search for replacement for the 1911. This was in spite of the fact that the 9mm double single-action Smith & Wesson Model 39 was acknowledged to be a revolutionary handgun at the time. Fortunately, in 1967, the Illinois State Police adopted the Model 39, providing a breakthrough in introducing semi-automatic pistols to law enforcement, which also helped publicity surrounding the semi-automatic 9mm pistol, and as a result boosted commercial sales. This led to Smith & Wesson's development of the higher capacity double stack version, the Model 59. Here's a Model 59 with an unusual bright aluminum frame. Typical 59 aluminum frames would have been black anodized. Getting back to the Model 39 in this chart, as you can see, there were several variations created as well as generations of the 39. The Model 39 is from the first generation produced between 1954 and 1982. Smith & Wesson released the 39 to the public in 1955 and the updated Model 39-2, like this one, for the civilian market about 1970, after it was obvious that the Army wasn't going to give up its 1911. What's the difference between the 39 and the 39-2? The 39-2 has an improved extractor. At that time, Smith & Wesson guns such as the Model 39-2 and the Model 59 were considered the new weapons of choice for many pistol carriers, and so in the end, the Smith & Wesson 59 and 39 were indeed a commercial success. Smith & Wesson continued improving the Models 39 and 59, leading to a second generation, which were assigned 3-digit model numbers and were produced between 1979 and 1988. Today we refer to the original Model 39 as a first-generation design because Smith & Wesson would continue to develop this model into 3 generations of metal frame semi-automatic pistols, which were produced all the way up until 2004. First-generation models like this Model 39 use a 2-digit model number, second generations use a 3-digit, and with a couple of exceptions, third-generation models use 4 digits. So Model 39 uses a conventional slide, barrel, bushing, slide arrangement as opposed to the exposed barrel and falling block arrangements of the Walther P38. Locking the slide into the barrel on a Model 39 is achieved by a modification of the Browning HP35 high-power cam lock breech. Again, the first generation Model 39 indeed employed many features common to the Walther P38, such as the combination safety and decocker that disconnected the trigger and the hammer. Smith & Wesson even copied the 8-round single-stack magazine as well, but added a magazine catch cutout to it in order to accommodate the button near the trigger guard, more popular on American pistols. The second generation version of Model 39 was known as the 439 and was released in 1980. The 639 was also released, which is basically the 439 made of stainless steel. Steel frame versions of these pistols followed, available in either stainless, blued, or nickel finish. Blued and nickel models numbers started with 5, 539, 559, and the stainless steel models all start with 6, 639, 659. In 1989, the 439 was replaced by the third generation model, the 3904, which had its own stainless version, the 3906. In just 2 years, Smith & Wesson discontinued the 3904 and the 3906 in order to give more attention to their higher capacity double stack models like the 5906. This marked the end of the Smith & Wesson Model 39 family, and the entire third generation would later be discontinued in 1999 in favor of Smith & Wesson's cheaper Sigma line. By the way, starting in 1990, Smith & Wesson also produced a variety of compact versions of the third generation Model 39. These compact models included the 3913, 3914, 3953, 3954, and the 908, which featured shortened frames and slides. Now, despite all the different models, the discontinued metal frame Smith & Wesson line double single action pistols from this era are usually considered tough, reliable, and excellent shooters. More importantly, interest in these pistols has remained high, with their value rapidly rising over the past couple of years, especially the early models. As for packaging, this was a used gun and a military or law enforcement surplus gun, so there was no packaging. However, these commercial 39-2 models would have come in a standard Smith & Wesson cardboard box, and as I understand, Model 39s came with only one magazine. As I've said, the Smith & Wesson 9mm semi-automatics were very popular, so you might expect that there would have been a lot of them used in movies during their era, and you'd be right. Way too many to mention them all, but here are a few featuring the Model 39. The 1983 James Bond film Octopussy with Roger Moore. The 1986 sci-fi film Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. And the 2003 action thriller Bad Boys 2 with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. And how about the 2011 action film Setup with Curtis Jackson and Bruce Willis. Specifications of the Smith & Wesson Model 39 include that it's a double single action, recoil-operated 9mm pistol with an 8-round magazine. This one is a Model 39-2, which just means that it has an improved extractor and was produced after the military decided not to replace the 1911 service pistol. It's got a 4-inch barrel, an overall length of 7.55 inches. It's 5 3/8 inches high and 1 1/4 inches thick at the grips, and the slide is about 7/8 of an inch thick. The frame is anodized black pure aluminum. The slide and barrel are carbon steel. The slide is blued. The sights include a ramp front fixed sight and a windage adjustable rear sight. There's a side-mounted safety decocker here. The magazine is 8-round, and there's a magazine disconnect safety. The gun originally came with only one magazine. There's a side-mounted mag release here. Grips are checkered walnut. Although the weight is 28 ounces for its time, that would have been fairly light for a full-size pistol. As for function, I'll state up front that while the action on this particular gun is very light and smooth, the fit and finish are not quite what you might call high-end excellent. It's not bad, just less refined when compared to, for example, the Browning HP 35. This gun is used and probably 50 years old, so it's pretty good considering, especially if it was a law enforcement surplus pistol. I've had this gun completely apart, so I can tell you it's actually pretty well made with good fitted parts. I found the magazine loaded easily and fit snugly into place. I like the mag release. Using the side of my thumb ejects the magazine nicely. I like the feel of these grips, and racking the slide with the hammer down is a little heavy but very doable. Very light with the hammer back. Slide release is a little stiff to operate. The safety decocker works as it should, flipping up easily to fire, down for safe. If the hammer is back, bringing the decocker down will also decock the hammer. Very easy. The trigger load in double action mode is very smooth, about 12 pounds, rolling to a lighter pull before firing. I like it, some people don't. There's a 1/4 inch take up in single action mode with only about a 4 to 5 pound pull to fire with almost no trigger travel. It's got a very, very short reset. Only about a 1/16 of an inch to reset with an audible click. I've seen better, but I like this trigger. Sights are good, balance is good, but I noticed that the 39's grip angle was more like my Glock than my Browning high power. I don't do as well at the range with my Glock. My Browning, on the other hand, points well like an extension of my hand. So this gun doesn't point as well as my Browning. At the range, I set my 6-inch targets out to 15 feet to begin with. I brought a mix of 9mm range and target ammo with me. Not bad. All my shots are on target. moving my target out to 25 feet, my usual training distance. Let's try a little double tap shooting. Okay, let's try setting the target out to 35 feet. Again, not bad. I think with a little practice, I'll get even better. But there's no doubt, this is a very nice pistol. While I hear the Smith & Wesson Model 39 referred to as an early Wonder 9 pistol, I would argue that because it's only an 8-round gun, technically, it's not a Wonder 9. That title would have to go to the Smith & Wesson Double Stack Model 59. And there's no doubt that there are better semi-automatic 9mm pistols out there, and if you're not used to firing these old-school pistols, the trigger may be a problem for you. At my age, I tend to forget that not everyone has had experience with the Smith & Wesson double-action trigger. Personally, I like the trigger. It's not the smoothest or crispest, but I think it's fine. Of course, if you've only experienced modern pistols, the double-action 12-pound pull and 5-pound single-action pull, as well as its mechanics, can feel a bit odd. By the way, many believe the Smith & Wesson trigger got better with each new generation. The second generation was better than the first, and the third generation was better than the second. And while with its aluminum frame, the 39 was considered light for its time, it's heavy compared to today's polymer options. Historically, the first 39's reliability and durability have been criticized, particularly the fragility of the extractor on the early 39's, hence the 1971 extractor improvement we find on these 39-2s. An undeniable con is that the 39 has been out of production since the early 1980s, when the first generation Smith & Wesson auto pistols were replaced by the second generation 3-digit series guns, such as the Smith & Wesson Model 439, followed by the third generation 4-digit series, such as the Model 5906 in the late 1980s. What that means is that finding spare parts will likely become increasingly challenging. Finally, reviews have suggested that long-distance accuracy, while not bad, tended to be somewhat underwhelming. That was true for my personal experience, but I suspect my skills were more to blame than the gun. Okay, the Smith & Wesson Model 39-2 is basically an all-metal, single-stack, old-school 9mm pistol. So maybe technically it's not a Wonder 9, but we're still talking about a historic piece of weaponry here. Personally, I like the overall feel and balance of the Smith & Wesson 39-2. I found it quite pleasant to shoot with overall good ergonomics in spite of the grip angle. Even with these factory sights, I found that the 39's accuracy was adequate at 15, 25, and even 35 feet. My investigation turned up no real issues of feed or reliability. The slide and barrel are high-grade carbon steel, and the frame is pure aluminum. Given its 50 years of use, this one cleaned up very easily and still looks great. Fit and finish may not be top drawer, but the materials and parts are good, and the complete package is actually pretty good for the price. And remember that although the Smith & Wesson Model 39 may be a classic from the Vietnam era, it remains one of the more serviceable semi-automatic pistols ever made. And finally, it's always good to see the value of a gun you own increasing, and that's been the case with the Model 39 this past year. Basic field stripping is fairly simple. After clearing the gun first, take the safety off, cock the hammer, and remove the magazine. Move the slide back till the forward end of the slide latch is aligned with the latch cutout on the lower end of the slide. Then push the latch out from the other side and remove. Move the slide assembly forward off the frame while keeping your thumb on the hammer to ease it down. It may take a little fiddling to remove the slide. Remove the recoil spring from the slide. Turn the barrel bushing to the left and remove. lift the barrel out of the slide, and that's it. Reassembly is basically the opposite. Return the barrel to the slide, return the bushing to the slide, return the spring and the rod, return the slide to the frame. However, when returning the slide to the frame, you'll need to depress the ejector and then the sear release lever in order to clear the rear of the slide. Insert the slide release takedown pin when the slide is in the right aligned position. And check for function. And that's it. As for price, Genetron.com suggests an average used value of $600 today for the Smith Wesson Model 39-2. True Gun Value site suggests an average used value of about $675. It's important to note that the value has been increasing sharply for the Model 39, and recent actual sales have averaged closer to $700. Used trade-in values have been about $440, and if you find a new old stock early Model 39, you can expect to pay from $1,500 to $2,500. I thought you might find that interesting. So what's a good price for a used 39-2? But to be honest, I've seen functioning 39s for as low as $300, but they were in pretty rough shape. This one was less than $400 out the door. It only required a bit of cleaning. I was lucky. If you find one in really good shape for $500, I'd say that would be a very, very good deal. Now, before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching. The Model 39 was Smith & Wesson's response to the U.S. military's request for a replacement to the M1911 after World War II. The result was the revolutionary double-action, single-action, semi-automatic 9mm Smith & Wesson Model 39. When the government decided not to replace the 1911, Smith & Wesson successfully pivoted its attention into the law enforcement and civilian markets. Smith & Wesson addressed the weak points of the 39's extractor in its release of the improved Model 39-2 in 1970. Continual updates to the 39 would lead to 3 generations of semi-automatic firearms, and historically, it's recognized that the Smith & Wesson Model 39 created significant groundbreaking influence long before the days of the polymer pistols. So after a few months of ownership and a few trips to the range, what do I think of this Model 39-2? Well, beyond being a real piece of firearm history, this Model 39-2 has an attractive design, comfortable ergonomics, smooth operation, and good reliability. Personally, I've found it to be a fun gun to shoot. True, I may not be as proficient with this 39 as I am with my Browning High Power or even my Beretta 92FS, and I may never carry it for defense, but that doesn't take anything away from just having a fun day at the range with it. Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.